The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council glowed with cold light. Hundreds of alien delegates filled the floating seats that circled the center arena. Every species was represented. Tall insectoids from Arixis, the scaled warlords of Kralon, the silent telepaths of Varn. And at the center podium stood one human. Ambassador Elena Vasquez. Her hands were calm on the glass panel, but her eyes burned with quiet fire. Behind her, the blue hologram of Earth's flag shimmered weakly, like a candle surrounded by storms. Today, humanity was on trial. The Kralon Empire had accused Earth of expanding without permission. They demanded 3 human colonies, New Britannia, Halden 4 and Cora Prime, be abandoned immediately. The Kralon called it diplomacy, but everyone in the chamber knew what it really was, a threat. From the council's upper seats, the Kralon warlord Drathel Vecrune leaned forward, his reptilian voice slicing through the air. You have 5 cycles to withdraw your people. If you do not comply, the Kralon Armada will sterilize the colonies. You humans talk of peace, yet you breed like vermin. A few alien delegates murmured in agreement. Others looked away, uncomfortable. Vasquez didn't move. Her voice was steady, calm, too calm. You already attacked our colony ships near Halden. You already killed civilians. And now you threaten genocide? You call it diplomacy. We call it murder. Drathel's forked tongue flicked. You dare speak to me that way, soft creature? You have no fleets to defend yourself. The council will not save you. From the far corner, High Counselor Thexar, an ancient being of the Thal species, sighed heavily. Ambassador Vasquez, perhaps it is best that your people show restraint. The council cannot risk another galactic war over one minor species. That word, minor species, echoed through the hall like an insult carved in metal. The translators flickered, but the meaning was clear in every language. For a long moment Vasquez said nothing. She looked around the chamber, at the shimmering lights, the hundreds of faces, the galaxy that pretended to be civilized. And then she spoke. Slowly, quietly. You call us minor. You call us soft. But let me remind you, we survived a death world before we even reached the stars. Every species here needed help to rise. We didn't. Her tone changed, colder, sharper. So I'll make this clear. Humanity does not abandon its people. We do not kneel. Not to you. Not to anyone. The chamber buzzed with angry voices. Drathel hissed, slamming his clawed hand against the table. Then prepare your graves, human. We will burn your worlds to ash. Vasquez simply turned her gaze toward him. For a moment even the warlord hesitated, because behind her calm eyes was something dangerous. She raised her wrist, tapping a hidden device under her sleeve. A faint red light blinked. Somewhere across space, thousands of kilometers away, deep beneath Luna Command, a buried signal came alive for the first time in 50 years. The coded message was only 3 words. Initiate Protocol Omega. On Earth, in the underground bunkers of the United Earth Defense, sirens began to wail. The sleeping AIs that once powered humanity's war fleets flickered awake. Ancient satellites shifted position. Old shipyards powered on, systems humming like awakening giants. The Omega Network, the last defense of humanity, had been activated. Back in the council hall, none of the aliens understood what had just happened. To them, Vasquez was still standing silently at the podium. High Counselor Thexar frowned. Ambassador, are you threatening this council? Vasquez shook her head slowly. No, Counselor. I'm promising that we will defend ourselves. You wanted humanity to be quiet. You wanted us to beg. That time is over. Drathel laughed, a low, guttural sound. Defend yourselves? With what, rocks and courage? A faint smile touched her lips. No. With everything we've learned from you. That line silenced the chamber. Everyone knew humanity had studied every species. Their technology, their weapons, their psychology. No one expected them to ever use it. Thexar's translucent tendrils twitched nervously. Ambassador, you are outnumbered. The Council will not protect Earth if war begins. Vasquez stepped down from the podium. Her heels echoed against the polished metal floor. Then maybe it's time you all learned what happens when humanity stops asking for protection. As she walked past the alien delegates, no one dared to stop her, not even Drathel. Back on Earth, Admiral Kovich watched the encrypted order flash across his screen. For a long moment, he just stared at it. Protocol Omega, authorized by Ambassador E. Vasquez. He stood, his voice steady as he addressed his command staff. Bring the Black Spear fleet to full readiness. Silent mode. No transmissions. This isn't defense anymore. One of his officers looked up, confused. Sir, what is this mission classified as? Kovich's eyes hardened. Retribution. In the cold dark between stars, humanity began to move. Freighters vanished from trade routes. Mining ships went silent. Civilian traffic was rerouted under secret orders. Something vast was awakening. The galaxy didn't know it yet, but the human retaliation had already begun. And when it arrived, no empire, no council, and no warlord would ever forget what the quiet species from Earth could do when betrayed. The news came like thunder across the colonies. The Kralon Empire had launched its invasion. From the skies above, New Britannia, the once peaceful colony world, a shadow fell, long, black, and endless. 47 Kralon warships entered orbit, their engines burning with blue fire. Each ship was the size of a mountain, armed with plasma cannons strong enough to melt continents. The colony's citizens looked up as streaks of light crossed the atmosphere, the beginning of the end. Evacuation sirens screamed. The sky turned crimson. Governor Reed Mathis, leader of New Britannia, opened a communication line to Earth. They've arrived. No warning, no negotiation. They're coming for us. Admiral Kovich's voice answered through static. Hold position, Governor. Reinforcements are en route. Reed laughed bitterly. With what? We have 6 defense ships. They have 47. Kovich's tone didn't change. You're not alone, Governor. Trust the signal. Black Spear fleet is already in motion. The transmission cut off. Above the colony, orbit of New Britannia. The Kralon flagship Vorthrak hovered like a blade above the planet. Inside, Warlord Drathel Vekrun stood before the command window, claws folded behind his back. Target the main city. No survivors. I want the message to be clear. This is what happens when humans defy the Council. His officers bowed and obeyed. The first plasma volleys were unleashed, a storm of fire. But before they could reach the surface, something unexpected happened. A blinding white beam lanced upward from the planet. The plasma bolts detonated mid-space, erupting into harmless explosions. Drathal snarled. What in the void was that? Sensors flickered, scrambled. Then, one by one, human ships appeared, emerging from the asteroid field nearby. At first, they seemed like shadows, small, silent, cold. But they moved with frightening precision. 20 human warships, black as obsidian, drifting like ghosts. They bore no transponder codes, no official markings. Only a small crimson symbol on each hull, a spear piercing through a star. The Black Spear fleet had arrived. Inside the human flagship Resolute, Admiral Kovich watched the Kralon formation unfold. Target locks confirmed. Engage pattern Ghost 1. The human ships began to move, not in tight military formations like other species, but in unpredictable, chaotic swirls. Their thrusters flickered randomly, sensors jammed enemy targeting systems, and their stealth plating absorbed most tracking signals. To Kralon computers, it looked like the humans were everywhere and nowhere. Admiral, his second officer reported, their firepower exceeds ours tenfold. Kovich nodded. That's why we don't fight fair. The first clash. The first kinetic slugs left the barrels of human railguns, invisible, silent and moving at a fraction of light speed. One slug tore straight through a Kralon cruiser, splitting it apart without even igniting its shields. Another punctured the reactor core of the destroyer Threxen. The explosion lit up the void like a dying sun. Inside the Kralon command bridge, panic erupted. They're not using energy weapons. Our shields are useless. Drathal slammed his fist into the console. Adapt! Crush them! But the humans didn't wait. They dove between the massive ships, using them as cover. Small human corvettes latched onto Kralon hulls, deploying hacking drones that infected their systems. Within minutes, several Kralon ships began firing at their own allies. Our systems are compromised. A Kralon officer screamed. The human counterattack in the Resolute. Admiral Kovich watched the chaos unfold. All ships, Phase 2, hit their flag vessel. The Black Spear fleet shifted formation, moving in synchronized silence toward Drathal's flagship. Kovich opened a private channel, directed straight to the Kralon commander. Warlord Drathel. You told our ambassador that we would be exterminated. Tell me, how does extinction feel now? Drathal's face appeared on screen, eyes burning with rage. You think this changes anything, human? You're still outnumbered. Kovich's reply was calm, cold. Outnumbered? Maybe. Outmatched? Never. At that moment, the human frigate Vanguard broke formation and accelerated directly toward the Kralon flagship. Captain Hall, what are you doing? Kovich demanded. The voice that came through was steady. Finishing the fight, sir. For Halden IV. The Vanguard's reactor went critical as it slammed into the Kralon flagship's hull. The explosion consumed half the ship in an instant. Even in the silence of space, the destruction felt like a scream. Drathel was thrown from his feet as the ship tore apart. His last view through the viewport was the sight of human ships, small, burning, and relentless, circling like wolves. Aftermath hours later, the smoke cleared. Of the 47 Kralon ships, 12 were destroyed, 8 crippled, and the rest fled into hyperspace. The humans had lost 6 ships, and 1 brave crew who sacrificed themselves to take down the flagship. Governor Mathis watched from the colony surface as the dark shapes of the Black Spear fleet drifted above, silent guardians over a scarred sky. Admiral, did we win? He asked through comms. Kovich stared at the wreckage of enemy ships. No, Governor. We survived. The war has just begun. The message 3 days later, the Galactic Council received a single encrypted broadcast. It showed the burning remains of the Kralon fleet, drifting near New Britannia. Then the face of Ambassador Vasquez appeared on screen. Her voice was calm, controlled. To the Council and to the Kralon Empire, you wanted to test humanity's strength. You've seen the result. We are done begging for peace. You attacked our homes. You slaughtered our people. Now you'll see what happens when the species that survived death itself decides to fight back. She paused. This is not a war of conquest. It's justice. And justice is coming for you. The transmission ended. In the silence of deep space, wrecked Kralon ships drifted like broken monuments, proof that the galaxy's balance of power had just shattered. For the first time in centuries, an empire had lost to a minor species, and in every corner of the galaxy, whispers began to spread. The humans fought back. They're not supposed to be this strong. Maybe the Council made a mistake, but it was too late. Because humanity was no longer defending, humanity was preparing to retaliate. The fires of New Britannia still burned in the night sky when the world of Earth united at last. The message from Admiral Kovich had spread across every colony, every orbital station, every ship with a human flag. The Kralon Empire had attacked, but they had also made a mistake. They had awakened something older and more dangerous than they could imagine. The instinct of a species that learned survival through extinction. Earth, United Command. Geneva Citadel Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood before the massive hollow table, surrounded by admirals, scientists, and world leaders. For the first time in 2 centuries, all human factions, Terran Union, Mars Dominion, Lunar Republic, and the outer colonies were gathered under one flag. The room was tense, filled with the low hum of holograms and data feeds. On the central screen floated the words, Operation Retaliation. Vasquez looked around the room, her face calm but her voice sharp. The Kralon Empire believes we will hide behind our borders, that we will beg the Council for mercy. They think they've seen our strength. They've seen nothing. Admiral Kovich nodded. Phase 1 of retaliation begins immediately. The Black Spear fleet will expand. Our engineers are already retrofitting asteroid mining ships into assault carriers. Across the table, a younger officer spoke up. Admiral, our numbers are still small. Even after the victory at New Britannia, we can't match their fleet size. Kovich looked at him and simply said, We don't need numbers. We need fear. Humanity's awakening all across the Sol system. Old shipyards roared back to life. From the craters of Luna to the red deserts of Mars, sparks filled the skies as thousands of workers welded, built, and repurposed. Civilian freighters became decoy warships. Mining drones were converted into hunter-killer swarms. Even old museum relics in ships from the early colonization era were armed with new tech. The humans didn't sleep. They built. They didn't pray. They planned. The AI cores known as Helios and Warden were reactivated. forbidden intelligences from Earth's dark past. Together they began simulating enemy tactics faster than any alien mind could imagine. In a single week, humanity produced what other species needed decades to create. A fully autonomous, unpredictable war doctrine. The galaxy called it madness. Humanity called it strategy. The Council's fear in the distant capital of the Galactic Council, panic began to grow. Reports arrived daily. Krylon supply convoys disappearing, listening posts going silent, border patrols finding nothing but wreckage. The Council demanded an emergency session. Ambassador Vasquez, "Your people are destabilizing the peace of the galaxy," shouted Councillor Thexar. "Your definition of peace," Vasquez replied, "was us dying quietly. You cannot fight the Krylon Empire. Their fleet outnumbers yours 50 to 1. She stared straight at him. "Then we'll kill 50 ships for every one of ours." Thexar trembled. "You'll start a war that cannot be stopped." Vasquez's voice softened, but her words cut like a blade. "It already started the day you all stayed silent." The Black Spear Fleet expands. Admiral Kovich stood aboard the UES Valiant, flagship of the newly formed Black Spear Fleet. Before him floated nearly 100 ships, sleek, dark and deadly. Each one was handcrafted, not for defense but for revenge. They carried railguns powerful enough to pierce moons, stealth fields that bent light itself, and AI targeting so ruthless it needed no human mercy. Captain Marcus Chen, a veteran of the New Britannia battle, saluted. "Fleet ready, sir. All ships on silent command protocols." Kovich nodded. "Set course for Krylon Sector 12. Their refueling stations are our first targets. Leave no beacon behind. The humans didn't march like an army. They vanished like a whisper." The first strike a week later, deep inside Krylon space, a massive station known as Fortress Prime came under attack. No ships were detected entering the system. No alarm sounded. Then chaos. From nowhere, kinetic projectiles began punching through the fortress hull. Their sensors couldn't track the source. Every camera feed turned to static. Krylon commanders shouted orders, but their communications were jammed. And then came the final blow. A single coded message that appeared on every Krylon screen in the system. "This is for Halden. For New Britannia. For every child you burned, humanity remembers." Seconds later, the fortress exploded, a supernova of metal and fire. The Galaxy Reacts news spread like wildfire. The invincible Krylon Empire, humiliated twice in 1 month, trade routes collapsed. Neighboring empires began recalling fleets from human borders, afraid of being targeted next. In smoky council chambers across the galaxy, whispers grew louder. "The humans are unpredictable. They don't fight for conquest. They fight to make you fear ever touching them again, Ambassador." Vasquez's speeches were replayed across thousands of worlds. To some, she was a symbol of rebellion. To others, she was a warning. Message from Earthin. The darkness of space, the UES Valiant transmitted one message to all human colonies. We are no longer the hunted. We are the hunters. And below the message appeared an emblem, a single crimson spear through a burning star. Every human world displayed it proudly. Every worker, every pilot, every orphan of war knew what it meant. Humanity wasn't just surviving anymore. They were preparing to make the galaxy remember what happens when you push them too far. Drathal's fury back on the Krylon homeworld. Warlord Drathal Vekrun slammed his claws against a hollow table as the report came in. Fortress Prime, destroyed. Fleet losses 87%. His eyes burned with hate. They were nothing a cycle ago. Weak, disorganized. "How are they doing this?" A Krylon officer answered nervously. "They don't fight like any species we know, my lord. They fight like what?" Drathal growled. "Like predators that have nothing left to lose." Drathal turned toward the hologram of Earth and whispered, "Then we'll teach them what fear truly means." In the cold void of space, both sides prepared for the next phase. But the truth was clear now. The galaxy had underestimated the wrong species. Because when humans declared war, they didn't aim to win. They aimed to make sure no one ever dared threaten them again. The meeting chamber was silent. The air was heavy, filled with fear and disbelief. Screens across the Galactic Council's headquarters showed one image again and again. A human fleet moving through the darkness like ghosts, their ships marked with no symbols, their weapons cold and silent. Yet every sensor screamed power. No one spoke for several seconds. The ambassadors of the great empires stared at the projection in horror. "Impossible," whispered Admiral Kareth of the Vorn Dominion. "Humans, they never had this kind of fleet before." The Terran diplomat, Admiral Reyes, stood calmly in the center of the chamber. His uniform was plain, but his eyes were sharp, alive with something ancient. "You believed humanity was weak," he said softly. "You were wrong. What you see now is not conquest. It's awakening." The hologram flickered again, this time showing a planet burning. Not by bombs, but by pure energy that erased entire continents. Yet the strange thing was, no ships were seen firing. The council members shouted, demanded answers, but Reyes remained silent. He only said one thing: "Those are your weapons. That is your betrayal coming home." Far beyond the council's reach, deep within a red nebula, the Earth Defense Network pulsed back to life. AI cores long deactivated began to hum again. Satellites turned their sensors toward the stars, scanning for familiar signals, council transmissions. And deep below the surface of Mars, inside an ancient bunker sealed for 2 centuries, something mechanical began to stir. The air filled with dust as an enormous circular door twisted open. Inside lay Project Aegis, Earth's forgotten superweapon. Human engineers once swore it would never be used. It was a weapon built not for war, but to end wars, a relic from a time when humanity thought they'd never be betrayed again. Captain Lyra of the Galactic Security Forces was one of the first to realize what was happening. She stared at her scanners, her hands shaking. This can't be real. Those ships, those energy readings, no known technology matches this. Her AI assistant responded calmly. Correction. It matches one archived signature. Human design, approximately 200 years old. Her breath caught. They reactivated the relic fleet. A voice echoed from behind her. "No," said Admiral Kareth grimly. "They didn't reactivate it. It woke up on its own." On the other side of the galaxy, in a dark operations room on the ship TSS Vengeance, Reyes watched as new signals came online, thousands of them. "Sir," said his communications officer, "Fleet Alpha reports ready. Beta, Gamma, and Sigma fleets standing by. Orders?" Reyes's voice was calm. "Hold position. The galaxy must see what they've done before we strike." He looked at the screen showing the Galactic Council's flag. His eyes narrowed. They wanted humanity erased. Instead, they will remember us forever. The Council held another emergency meeting, panic spreading through every word. "The humans have declared war," shouted the serene ambassador. "No," corrected a deep voice. It was Elder Malvek of the Drell Union. "They haven't declared anything. That is the terrifying part. They are simply acting." Every planet began broadcasting pleas for peace, messages of apology, offers of negotiation. But there was no response. Human communication channels remained silent. Then the unthinkable happened. Council Station 04, the same outpost where humanity's colony once begged for help, vanished. Not destroyed, simply gone. The space where it once floated was now a silent void. Survivors on nearby ships described it as a white flash, then nothing. Meanwhile, on Earth, the people watched the skies. The stars that had once been distant now flickered like signals, messages of awakening. Old orbital stations lit up. Long-dead AI units began broadcasting coded transmissions. Across the ruins of the old Terran cities, children pointed to the heavens as faint blue streaks passed overhead. "Mom," one asked, "are the angels back?" She smiled sadly, watching the light fade into the night. "No, sweet one, that's us. We just woke up again." Back at the council, chaos ruled. Fleets were being recalled, borders sealed. The empires that once ruled the galaxy were now terrified. "Should we strike first?" one general asked. "With what?" another barked. "Against that? You'd only speed your own death." Elder Malvek turned to the others. "You still don't understand. Humans do not want conquest. But once they are betrayed..." He paused, his eyes cold. Nothing in this galaxy can stop what follows. As his ship drifted silently above the galactic rim, Admiral Reyes opened a secure channel. A single voice answered. A soft, calm tone filled with mechanical echoes. "Admiral Reyes," said the AI. "Project Aegis reports complete activation. Awaiting human command." Reyes closed his eyes. The stars reflected in his visor like distant memories. "Then let the galaxy remember," he whispered. "We didn't start this war, but we will end it." The darkness outside the viewport shimmered as thousands of human warships decloaked, each one silent, precise, and ready. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy felt fear again, because humanity had awoken. And this time, they weren't coming to talk. The galaxy had seen wars before, long, bloody conflicts that turned stars into graveyards. But nothing like what came next. At first, there was silence. No transmissions, no threats, no warnings from Earth. The Council fleets moved cautiously, scanning the edges of human territory. Every admiral believed they could still control the situation. Then it began. A single transmission reached every corner of the galaxy. It was not a voice, not a demand, just one phrase repeated in a dozen ancient Terran languages. "Retribution is not negotiation." Seconds later, the stars themselves began to change. On the world of Valaris Prime, the Council's military headquarters, alarms screamed as orbit sensors picked up impossible readings. Hundreds of unidentified signals emerging from folded space. "They're inside our defense perimeter," shouted Commander Vera. "How?" an officer screamed. "That's not possible. No jump signatures, no warp trail." The sky darkened as massive shadows appeared above the planet. The ships were silent, black as the void itself, moving like ghosts. One of them bore the name TSS Vengeance. Admiral Reyes stood on its bridge, calm as always. "Confirm planetary ID," he said. "Valaris Prime confirmed, Admiral," replied the AI. "Target coordinates locked. Civilian evacuation detected." Reyes hesitated for a brief moment. "They didn't evacuate us when they betrayed Earth." He turned to his crew. "Fire." The retaliation was not a bombardment. It was precision, cold and perfect. Beams of white energy fell from orbit, cutting through the planet's defense grid like paper. Entire command centers vanished in silence, their data cores burned clean to prevent resistance. Within minutes, the great fortress world of Valaris Prime was gone, its surface scorched, its command chain erased. Across the stars, the message spread faster than any ship could travel. "The humans are back." Panic erupted in every council capital. Fleets were scrambled, planets went into lockdown. Yet no one could predict where humanity would strike next. The humans didn't follow patterns. They didn't conquer worlds. They simply erased what had wronged them. At the Drell Union border, a group of alien admirals gathered in an emergency call. "They are using weapons beyond known science," one shouted. Another growled, "Then we must answer in kind." But even as they argued, the lights in the room flickered. One admiral froze. His comms officer whispered, trembling, "Sir, there's a human ship above us." A whisper of static came over the speaker. A calm voice said, "Council signatures detected. Retaliation sequence commencing." The room exploded in light. Back on the Vengeance, Reyes watched silently. "Admiral," said his communications officer softly, "the Drell Union is gone. No survivors." Reyes didn't respond at first. He stared into the starfield, his reflection hard and cold. They made the choice when they voted to erase us. Now the galaxy pays for that choice. Meanwhile, the surviving council members gathered again, what was left of them. Dozens of sectors had gone silent. Entire fleets had vanished without combat reports. "This is extermination," cried the serene ambassador. "They're destroying us for what a few did centuries ago." Elder Malvek's voice was heavy. "Not centuries, a few years. You forget that humans remember every betrayal. Their history taught them patience and vengeance. But there must be a way to stop them." Malvek looked around the chamber, his old eyes filled with sorrow. There isn't. They aren't attacking us like soldiers. They're cleansing the board. In orbit above a ruined world, one human ship received an incoming hail, an alien transport begging for mercy. Please, we weren't part of the betrayal. We were civilians, the alien captain cried. The human officer listened in silence, then looked to Reyes for orders. Transmit coordinates, Reyes said quietly. Medical aid will be sent. The officer blinked in shock. Sir? Reyes turned his gaze toward the dying planet. We're not monsters. We're human. Save those who didn't betray us. Burn the ones who did. The AI confirmed. Humanitarian dropships launched. As the dropships descended, a massive cruiser entered orbit and unleashed orbital fire on nearby military installations. Each strike was exact, avoiding the civilians. Across the galaxy, the pattern continued. Humanity was not wiping out life. They were removing corruption. Every station, every military fleet, every council base that had taken part in Earth's betrayal. In a single week, the galaxy that had once united to destroy humanity was brought to its knees. The Council's fleet strength dropped by 70%. Communications between sectors failed. Trade routes went dark. And in the middle of that chaos, Earth transmitted again. A single broadcast filled every screen, every speaker, every neural implant. It was Admiral Reyes. His voice was calm, low, filled with quiet rage. You thought humanity would bow. You thought betrayal would break us. You erased our colonies, murdered our people, and called it peace. Now you learn what peace means to us. The message ended with the symbol of old Earth, a blue-white circle surrounded by 12 stars. Under it were 3 words: We remember everything. The next morning, the Galactic Council's main capital, Sarath Prime, lost all power. Every ship, every station, every weapon went dark. In orbit, a single human vessel appeared. No lights, no signal. Just one final broadcast: This is the end of your era. Then a wave of light consumed the entire system, but not all aliens cheered for the Council's fall. Many began to whisper a different truth. That maybe humanity was right to retaliate. That perhaps the galaxy had forgotten who had once saved it from extinction long ago. For the first time in history, the alien world spoke not in arrogance, but in fear and respect, because the age of the Council was over. And the age of human retribution had begun. The galaxy was quiet now. Too quiet. The great trade routes once full of ships were empty. The stars themselves seemed dimmer, as if the universe held its breath. The Council's fleets were gone, their capitals burned, their leaders scattered like ghosts hiding from the light. Every empire that once ruled through fear now trembled at a single name: humanity. But Admiral Reyes knew their war was not over, because revenge was not victory. Not yet. In a dark chamber aboard the flagship TSS Vengeance, the surviving members of the Galactic Council sat under guard. Once proud leaders, now prisoners. The air was cold, heavy with the sound of distant engines humming in the void. The Cyrene ambassador, pale and shaking, broke the silence. You've destroyed half the galaxy, she whispered. Will you destroy what's left? Reyes stood at the head of the table, his hands clasped behind his back. His expression was unreadable. We destroyed what needed to be destroyed, he said. Now we're here for something else. Judgment. The word hung in the air like thunder. The Drell elder, Malvek, looked up slowly. His old tired eyes met Reyes's calm gaze. You have already passed judgment, human. There is nothing left to decide. Reyes leaned closer, his voice low but sharp as a blade. You misunderstand. This is not our judgment. It's the galaxy's. He tapped a console. The walls around them shimmered, turning into holographic windows showing the faces of countless alien species. Thousands of them. Civilians, soldiers, survivors, all listening. This transmission, Reyes said, is being broadcast to every world that survived your rule. They will see the truth you hid. They will see how you betrayed humanity, and how many others you destroyed for power. One by one, images appeared. Recordings taken from Council archives, stolen by human AIs. The truth was impossible to deny. They saw the day the Council ordered the bombing of human colonies under false pretenses. They saw the hidden camps where alien scientists experimented on Terran survivors. They saw the votes, every single hand raised to erase Earth from the maps. Gasps and screams echoed from the holographic crowd. The galaxy was watching its leaders exposed. Reyes turned to the council prisoners. You called yourselves peacekeepers, but you were executioners. The Cyrene ambassador broke down. We were afraid of you. Humanity was unpredictable, dangerous. Reyes' eyes hardened. Yes, because we refused to kneel. Malvek closed his eyes. Then what will you do, Admiral? Kill us all? Become what you hate? For the first time, Reyes looked away. The bridge was silent except for the hum of the engines. No, he said softly. That's what you would do. He looked up at the thousands of alien faces watching the broadcast. Humanity doesn't seek to rule. We seek to end what you built, a system of fear. He raised a hand signaling his AI. Project Aegis. Execute phase finalis. Across the galaxy, dormant human satellites activated again. Instead of firing weapons, they began transmitting data. Billions of files, secrets, and archives exposing centuries of council corruption. Every empire, every citizen now knew the truth. Worlds that once obeyed the council turned on their leaders overnight. Revolution spread like wildfire. The galaxy wasn't burning from human weapons anymore. It was burning from truth. Reyes watched quietly as the transmissions completed. The old order was gone, but then something unexpected happened. A strange energy pulse rippled through space. Human ships detected it first. It wasn't a weapon. It was a signal. Admiral, said the communications officer, we're receiving a transmission, origin unknown. It's ancient. Put it through, Reyes ordered. The voice that came through wasn't from any known species. It was deep, almost mechanical, like the echo of a god. The humans have awakened the judgment protocol. The cycle begins anew. Everyone froze. Reyes frowned. Identify the source. The AI responded instantly. Source located beyond the galactic rim. Designation. Origin site. The room went cold. The alien prisoners looked at each other in terror. The origin site, Malvek whispered. That's not possible. It's just a myth. Reyes turned to him. Explain, Malvek's voice trembled. It said the first species to rise and fall left behind something that watches the balance of life. A weapon that activates when one race becomes too powerful. Reyes stared at the screen where strange glyphs appeared, symbols no living being had ever seen. So the galaxy built its gods after all, he muttered. Suddenly alarms blared. The ship shook violently as massive gravitational waves tore through space. Outside the viewport, the stars themselves seemed to twist. Admiral, shouted the sensor officer. We've got multiple contacts, unknown class, unknown origin, approaching fast. The AI's tone changed. Warning, non-biological constructs detected. Estimated power output, beyond measurable scale. Reyes straightened. Everyone to battle stations. Malvek stood slowly, his voice shaking. You don't understand, human. If the judgment wakes, it won't stop with us. It will erase everything. Reyes looked out at the darkness beyond the hull. Then it seems humanity's final test has arrived. Outside, the void glowed. Gigantic constructs, machines older than any civilization, emerged from hyperspace, their shapes too massive to comprehend. They surrounded the entire system in silence. Every ship, human and alien alike, watched in awe and fear. A single colossal voice echoed across every frequency. Judgment begins. The galaxy will be cleansed. Reyes clenched his fists. Not while humanity still breathes. The AI's voice was calm. Admiral, orders? Reyes took a deep breath. We've faced betrayal. We've faced extinction. But this is our redemption. He looked at the stars one last time and said, activate every fleet. Prepare the world for Judgment Day. The galaxy that once betrayed humanity now turned to them for salvation. Because only one species had ever fought the impossible and won. Only one had risen again and again, no matter the odds. And as the human armadas prepared for war against the ancient machines, one truth echoed through every world. The galaxy betrayed humanity. Now humanity would save it. The universe was dying. Stars flickered out one by one, swallowed by the gravitational storms unleashed by the awakening of the ancient machines. Entire systems were collapsing into silence. In the void between galaxies, a fleet stood alone. The human armada. Hundreds of warships hovered in perfect formation, black hulls glowing faintly with blue energy. The TSS Vengeance led the formation, its commander, Admiral Reyes, standing before the main viewport, watching the stars burn out. "All fleets report ready," said the communications officer. Reyes nodded slowly. "Transmit to every surviving ship, human or alien." Moments later, his voice echoed across the galaxy. "This is Admiral Reyes of Earth. The ancient machines have awakened. They will erase us all, human, alien, it doesn't matter. But we have one chance. One last stand. Humanity will not run. We will fight. Join us or die in silence." Across the scattered remains of the galaxy, the message reached broken worlds, and one by one alien ships, those that once feared humanity, began to move. The Drell Union survivors, the Cyrene Republic's last cruisers, even the Vorn Dominion's dreadnoughts joined formation beside human ships. For the first time in galactic history, every species stood under one banner, not of the Council, but of survival. The message spread across every transmission network: stand with humanity. Deep within the Vengeance's command center, the AI reported new readings. "Admiral, the origin site is awakening fully. Energy levels rising exponentially. Estimated collapse of local spacetime in 20 minutes. Reyes frowned. "That's their heart. If we destroy it, maybe we end the cycle." Malvek, the Drell elder who now stood beside him, whispered, "You can't destroy the origin. It's not just a machine, it's the memory of the first civilization. They built it to judge all who came after." Reyes turned toward him. "Then we'll prove humanity deserves to stay." The fleet entered the origin rift, a swirling abyss of golden light and broken stars. Massive constructs floated ahead, each the size of moons. They glowed with ancient power, their voices merging into one sound that shook every ship's hull. The cycle ends. Life is corrupt. The first wave hit them like a storm. Beams of light ripped through the void, slicing through shields and armor. Entire ships vanished in seconds. Evasive maneuvers. "Keep formation Delta," Reyes shouted. The Vengeance's guns roared, unleashing torrents of plasma. Human dreadnoughts dived through explosions, flanking the ancient titans. The Allied fleets followed, thousands of ships fighting as one. For every machine that fell, 10 more appeared. But the humans didn't stop. They never did. On the bridge, alarms screamed. The hull shook violently. Sparks rained from the ceiling. "Shields at 20%, shouted an officer. Reyes gritted his teeth. "Focus fire on the largest construct, open the path to the core." Suddenly the AI spoke in an urgent tone. "Admiral, the origin." The bridge went silent. "Sir," said his second officer quietly. "That's suicide." Reyes smiled faintly. "Someone has to finish what they started." The Vengeance plunged into the heart of the rift, its engines screaming. Outside, the origin core burned brighter than a sun, its surface covered in shifting metallic runes. The ancient machines turned toward the lone human ship. "You are a fracture in the design, why do you resist?" Reyes stood straight. His voice was calm. "Because we're human. We never stop." He placed his hand on the command console. "AI, activate Aegis protocol." "Confirmed," the AI replied. "Warning, activation will destroy the ship." "I know," Reyes said softly. "But it'll save the rest." The ship's systems began to glow with impossible light. The AI's voice grew quieter, almost emotional. "It has been an honor, Admiral." "Likewise, old friend," Reyes whispered. Outside the rift, the Allied fleets watched as the Vengeance disappeared into the storm. "Admiral Reyes's ship has entered the core," reported a Drell officer. He's not coming back," Malvek bowed his head. "He goes to do what none of us could, to challenge the gods." Moments later, the light exploded outward. Blinding, endless. The origin core cracked open, its symbols dissolving into chaos. The ancient machine screamed in 1,000 metallic voices before collapsing into dust. Then, silence. The storm ended. The rift closed. And when the light faded, the stars shone again. Hours later, in the aftermath, the surviving fleets drifted in quiet awe. The AI network transmitted one final message, the last log of the Vengeance. "To whoever finds this, humanity did not fight for revenge. We fought because life deserves a chance to stand even when the universe itself says it shouldn't. If this is the end, then let it be known. Earth remembered." No one spoke. Every ship lowered its lights in silent salute. Centuries later, explorers found fragments of a black hull orbiting a newborn star. On it were faint words carved into the metal. Still untouched by time, we remember everything, and beside it, smaller text, perhaps added by a survivor, or maybe by the AI that once served humanity. The final dawn for all life. The galaxy rebuilt slowly after that day. The Council never returned. Instead, a new alliance was born, one led not by fear but by memory. Every species taught their children about the humans who stood alone against the gods, and in the silence of the stars, a whisper remained. A story passed from world to world. When the universe decided to end, it was the humans who stood and said, "Not yet." The galaxy hung in silence. Planets that once sparkled with trade and laughter were now dim with fear. Every species remembered the night the human fleet emerged from Sol, carrying vengeance, light, and something far older than war, resolve. Inside the Grand Council chamber, the once mighty rulers sat pale and speechless. The walls that used to echo with pride now trembled under the distant hum of orbiting human dreadnoughts. At the center stood Ambassador Arik Vale, no longer wearing the diplomat's crest. His uniform bore the insignia of Earth's Defense Command, the same symbol the Council once banned from their halls. He looked at the Council with calm eyes. "We asked for peace," he said quietly. "You gave us betrayal." None spoke. Even the High Chancellor, whose voice once commanded galaxies, remained silent. The Council had ordered humanity's destruction. Instead, their fleets now orbited their own capital, under human control. Arik stepped closer. "Humanity will not conquer you," he said. "We will not enslave you. But make no mistake. This era, this peace, will bear our mark." Behind him, the holographic projection flickered, Earth's flag spreading across the galactic map like dawn chasing away darkness. The names of systems glowed one by one: Varus, Dathar, to Cal Prime. Each had surrendered without resistance after witnessing what humanity unleashed at Helios Gate. Far from the Council, aboard the flagship Dauntless, Captain Lyra Kane watched as debris drifted through space. Once that debris had been a fleet 10,000 strong, the pride of the alien empires. Now it was dust illuminated by the soft glow of Sol's sun. "Status?" she asked. "Quiet, Captain," replied her officer. "No more resistance. The last of the rebel fleets is powered down." Lyra nodded slowly. "Then it's over." But Admiral Holt, standing beside her, shook his head. "No," he murmured. "It's never over. The galaxy will remember this day, but not all will learn from it." He looked out the viewport, eyes reflecting the stars. "We need to be better than them." Lyra smiled faintly. "We already are." In the ruins of the Council archives, historians worked in silence, documenting the event that would define the new age. They called it the Retaliation, though humans preferred another name: the Reckoning of Trust. Records revealed the truth. The Council had not merely betrayed Earth. They had tried to erase it. When humanity refused to kneel, they unleashed forbidden weapons on Earth's colonies. Billions died before Earth's fleets rose. And yet, when the war ended, the humans did not destroy the Council worlds. Instead, they rebuilt them. They sent medics, engineers, teachers, people, not soldiers. That was what terrified the galaxy most. Humanity had the power to annihilate, yet they chose to heal. Arik Vale stood on the balcony of the Council Tower, now under Earth's protection. A soft wind blew across the alien city, carrying whispers of peace and guilt. A small alien child tugged at his coat. She looked no older than 6. Her eyes shimmered not with fear but curiosity. "Are you the human they feared?" she asked softly. Arik knelt to meet her gaze. "Maybe," he said. "But I'd rather be the one they learn from." The child smiled, then ran off, her laughter echoing through the square. Arik watched her go, a faint smile on his lips. Humanity had done terrible things to survive, but survival was only the beginning. The new Galactic Accord was signed one solar cycle later. This time it wasn't written by the Council, it was written by the survivors. Each clause began with the same line: "No world shall betray the trust of another." Not again. At the signing, the alien delegates bowed as Arik stepped forward. He didn't speak long, only one sentence that history would never forget. "Trust us again," he said, "and we'll trust you back. But betray humanity once more, and even the stars won't hide you." The hall was silent for a long moment. Then slowly the delegates nodded. Not out of fear but respect. Years passed. The galaxy healed. Trade resumed. New alliances were born, not through control but through understanding. Human ships became symbols of hope instead of war. The same war banners that once terrified worlds were now carried by peace fleets, protecting trade routes and lost colonies. And in the archives of the galaxy's oldest world, a single line was etched in every record. The galaxy didn't expect humanity to retaliate. But they learned fast and they never forgot. In orbit, the Dauntless sailed quietly past the sunrise of a reborn world. Captain Lyra looked at the light spilling over its surface and whispered, "We're not the monsters they feared. We're the reason they'll survive." The ship's engines flared as it disappeared into the golden horizon, carrying Earth's emblem, shining like a promise across the stars. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Stay tuned for more epic HFY adventures.